Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to add some code to respond to button clicks in this little application that we've created here. So I've got my button defined in XML here, and the first thing I need to do is I need to give that button an ID. So to do that, I'm going to say here ID and control space to autocomplete, and if I press control space again in here, we've got a range of options here, and I'm going to select this one, @+ID/, and then I'm going to type an ID which I'm just going to make up, and I'm going to call this save. Now this looks a bit peculiar, but after typing it a few times you get used to it, and what it is whenever you refer to an ID in the XML, the ID of some kind of resource, which in this case is it's just a button ID, then it has to start with a @ sign like this, and following the @ sign you will have after this plus you'll have an ID that identifies this as an ID, and then a slash, and then an actual value for the ID, and I've called this save. And the plus sign here means that this is a new ID. We're defining this for the first time. And when you do that, and once your application builds, which it should do automatically, that ID will actually be added to r.java. So you'll see here it's added this save value under this ID value here. But I'll leave that for the moment. We're going to use that in just a second. Having given my button an ID, the next step is I'm going to go to my main activity.java here. And the main activity.java, you'll recall, at the moment is just doing this set content view here to actually display the XML that we've added. So it's actually displaying the activity main XML down here. And this onCreate method is called whenever your application is started for the first time. And we're going to be talking a lot more about the different methods that activities have. But for the moment, we're just going to use this as a place to put some more code that sets the application up. So what I need to do here is I need to first find that button. And in fact, I'm going to add another method here, a method of my own, which I'll call private void add button. Let's call it add save button listener, because there's quite a lot of code, or a few lines, to actually detect the button clicks, and it makes it neater just to put it in a separate method like this, and then I can just call this add save button listener here in onCreate. And the first thing I need to do is actually find that button. So I'm going to use a method called find view, and remember the button is a kind of view. Find view by ID, and for the ID I'll pass in the automatically generated ID from r.java, so I'll say r.id, and this r.id contains all the IDs that I add in my XML. And you'll see here that the autocomplete has come up, and it's allowing me to select save, which is the ID that I just added of that button. So this feels like a bit crazy when you first see it, but you'll get used to the idea quite quickly, that to define an ID for something you need this @ sign plus, and then an ID slash, and then a name for the ID, and then to refer to it later in your code you will say r.id such and such, like that. Now this returns a view, and we have to cast it to a button control. I'm going to type button here, save btn, let's call it, equals, and I'm going to cast it to the right type, because I know that this is actually a button, and I'll add the input there with Control Shift and O. Now we've got a button, we can set a click listener on it. I can say save button dot set, and let's just press Control space and set click we actually need set on click listener, that's the one. And this takes an object that implements the, I think it's an interface on click listener, and it's actually, I'm going to use an anonymous class here, and if you're not too familiar with anonymous classes, then don't worry, once you get used to typing this you'll get the picture. I'm going to say here new view dot on click listener, just because on click listener here is an interface that's actually defined within the view class. So I'm going to select this one here that the autocomplete has suggested, and it's filled in the rest of the stuff for me here. So we're just defining here a anonymous class within the actual parameter brackets of this set on click listener. And this pattern, if you're not used to using it, it'll become familiar to you really quickly if you just try typing it out a few times. And in here, I can put some code that will run whenever the button's clicked. And I'm going to leave it there for this tutorial. What I would do if this was a Swing application would be I'd put a system.out.println in here, and then we could see it coming out in the console just to check that this actually works. But for Android applications that trick won't work, and for that reason we're going to look at another trick in the next tutorial. So join me again then, and until next time, happy coding.